First impressions are crucial in pretty much any part of life. Job interviews, relationships, the places you visit, and the entertainment you choose to invest your time and energy into. All of them depend on the first few minutes or even seconds of how you perceive these things. Video games are no exception, and how you interact with the early locations, narratives, and mechanics can determine if you've found a forever game or if you'll end up uninstalling it next week. Today, I want to explore these first few minutes of classic WoW, unpack the small starting areas, the tutorials, to figure out why they're so important and what they're able to teach new players about the game. Thank you all for the fun comments and support, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. Before you get to experience the starting area of your choosing, you'll first have to navigate through the character creation screen. While you carefully refine the features of your adventurer, you'll only snag a few tidbits of lore on the faction, race, and class panels, giving you a bit of reference material to base your avatar around. It is the starter zone's responsibility to transpose those few sentences into a 3D reality, confirming or expanding upon those bits of lore. Once your character is created, your journey can now begin. There's one more step on your way to being fully immersed in the world, but it is much more of an experience than a task. No matter which race you select for your character, you'll be greeted with an iconic intro cinematic that pans across the landscape, immediately evoking the grand sense of scale and size of this ambitious world. Not only that, but the cinematics are accompanied by a voiceover from the late actor Earl Boen, who expands on the lore and gives a few paragraphs of background about the landscape and the people that call this place home, your home. Ending with a resolute statement about heritage, defending one's home, or charting a new path forward, the narration recedes to reveal your character in all their level 1 glory, an untested blank slate that needs to forge their own destiny. This is a common sentiment I've heard from a lot of folks, but I want to say it again right now. In classic WoW, your character isn't framed as the hero, or as a chosen one. They're just starting out in this vast world essentially as nobody, and that's okay. This is complemented by the narrative structure of these starting areas, which span roughly levels 1 through 5. There's no rush to hype up the major antagonists or jump right into the main action. Exposition is delivered slowly, but the story here in these 6 regions establishes a baseline for the territories these cultures call home, with mostly small, localized issues to deal with. Diseased wolves, lazy peons in need of motivation, retrieving water from a well, and yet pieces of the larger story are unveiled here too. A small band of Defias bandits, early signs of Teldrassil's rampant corruption, an orcish warlock summoning demons in a cave, all small pieces of their respective puzzles that play out over multiple zones and many levels of gameplay. The starting areas use quest, dialogue, and flavor text from NPCs to convey both the current state of the world and hint at what's to come, and this combination of low-stakes local threats, with a major antagonist creeping onto the scene, does a great job of setting up the diversity of obstacles your character will face on the way to level 60. I've always been a fan of maps, especially WoW maps, but looking at these small pockets of the wider world has given me a few new perspectives on how the world shapes your growing knowledge. Right off the bat, the area you're intended to tackle is pretty obvious, a valley or plain bordered by impassable mountains. The starting village is nearby, just within a few seconds jog from spawn, providing you with all the services your growing character will need as they start out. Away from spawn, the player begins to explore the area as they use their map and minimap to navigate. It's important to note that these valleys are almost perfect microcosms of the larger starting zones they are found within. Northshire reflects the idyllic golden hour forests of Elwynn, much like how the Red Cloud Mesa mimics the calm, rolling plains of Mulgore. It's geographic training for your brain, getting you accustomed to your place in the world and establishing a sense of consistency within each zone. Apart from a small town and some more open spaces to explore, all 6 starting areas have one other prominent feature, a cave. Caves are pretty infamous, especially on hardcore servers, as being difficult locations to navigate, with confusing 3D layouts and often aggressive enemies. While not all caves in these areas include both of these elements, they are certainly effective teasers of what's to come, and train the player to be wary of venturing inside. Of course, each region has their own spin on this concept. A spider-webbed mineshaft, a natural grotto crawling with demons, the list goes on, but the idea is the same. A few areas have secondary camps of enemies as well, like the bandit-infested vineyard in Northshire or the Scarlet Encampment in Deathnell, but the geography isn't as significant here as the disorientation caused by caves. The one item I'll end this section on is, well, the end of your experience traveling through these lands. On the way out of the valley, you'll pass through a gate or entryway that encapsulates the civilization you've become a part of. A pristine gardened path, a savage spiked gate, an archway carefully eroded by nature. These features once again differentiated to reflect the many cultures of Azeroth. Most of these are also unique art assets, meaning the devs really did care about this tutorial adventure from start to finish. Shout out to all the real ones who go out the right side of the Northshire gate. We all know that's the best way to get to Goldshire. Last but certainly not least, the starting areas are designed to help teach you about the mechanics of the game, how you level up, how you interact with other entities, and how those other entities react to you. The floating exclamation marks above NPCs provide a recognizable system for locating quests, and pretty soon after that, you begin to utilize your early spells and abilities to take down some basic enemies. These creatures are neutral, they only attack after you deal damage to them. The loot system is also pretty intuitive, and once you figure out the left-click, right-click UI, most players should feel comfortable navigating menus and the world using the mouse. Experience in these starting areas is also executed perfectly. You can reach level 2 in just a minute or so, giving you a feel for what it's like to fill up that XP bar and bask in the signature gold lighting effect. However, the XP requirements begin to ramp up drastically, conveying that, while measurable and definitely achievable, leveling up is a commitment that takes time and effort. As you progress through the starting area, you'll run into a more challenging lesson: hostile enemies. Get within a certain radius, and you'll be in combat, maybe with 2 or 3 enemies at once if you're not careful. With most targets in the rest of the game being hostile mobs, this is where the training wheels start to come off, and you'll have to manage your position more carefully to avoid being overrun. Around this time, you'll become acquainted with other systems as well, such as vendors and your very own class trainer, who you'll locate after being given a quest to do so. After finishing up the main quests in the area, you'll receive another quest to travel outside of the starting area, your clue that the tutorial is coming to an end. As you continue developing your map skills, you make your way out of the Tranquil Valley and onto the next chapter of your adventure, now well equipped to deal with the obstacles you'll face. Throughout this video, I've tried to look for the patterns and common occurrences that can be found throughout all 6 starting areas, but what I want to end on today are some of the many unique characteristics that aren't found in every location. It's crucial to have variety in MMOs, to give players distinct and memorable moments among the various regions. In Northshire, for example, you might look up at the massive waterfall in the northeast, only to soar above it many levels later atop a griffin. In the Valley of Trials, players might stumble across a hidden path, giving them a great view of the Merchant Coast and the town of Ratchet. In the case of the dwarves and gnomes, a Trogg invasion forces them to fight their way through the Coldridge Pass on their way out, trudging through a frigid tunnel adorned with unique stonework. There are dozens of other examples to be found in just these 6 small areas, but I hope you see my point. The starting areas follow common tropes and all serve the same purpose, but the various minutiae found within exists to flesh out the story and world of each race and culture. Whether you're on character 1 or 100, the starting area helps define who your adventurer is and who they'll become on their journey. The starting areas are some of the most memorable in the entire game, and I think that formative role that they play deserves to be appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you.